Hello and welcome to our very first episode of the Legal Trifecta. This is Law 101. We are going to be dissecting a bunch of legal terms and getting some legal concepts down to build the groundwork for the rest of the episodes. I'm so excited, and let's get right into it. Angela, Sandy, how are y'all doing?
Great. I'm so excited for day one, episode one.
Yeah, feeling nervous at all? Feeling anxious?
A little bit.
Yeah, but I'm excited. It's good. Sandy, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. It's going to be fascinating to walk back through 40 years of learning experience and picking out the very fundamental building blocks of where do you start, and inherent in that is terminology, which is what we've discussed and are going to be discussing in this episode.
Absolutely.
And as dry as it sounds, it's like you need to know the names of all the players before you can start playing the game.
The building blocks.
Absolutely. And honestly, I work at this law firm and I still learn every single day. I'm constantly asking you, what is that? What is this? So it's a great foundation.
And it's even further of a challenge because we represent so many clients who do not speak English.
This is very true.
So not only do we have the legal concepts in English that we have to master, but then we get into how do we properly translate that into the language that is understood by the clients.
Absolutely. And I know that we both speak a little bit of Spanish, and by a little bit, I mean we're fully bilingual. But how is that speaking with clients? Do you think you ever find it challenging? Because I know I'm first generation American. My parents are from Colombia. I learned house Spanish. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, ¿Cómo está tu familia? You know, hope you're doing well. But when it comes to the legal jargon, I had no idea. Sandy was the one who gave me a bunch of books, helped me read about it, and I have a spreadsheet full of all the translations. But do you have any tips for someone who is bilingual and working in the legal field?
You can always just Google the terms. It's what I do. My parents did not teach me any legal terms growing up.
Right.
So it's all stuff that I had to learn afterwards.
Awesome. And then Sandy, I know you don't speak fluent Spanish, but I know sometimes when we're translating at the firm, you already kind of have an idea of what the clients are saying. So how fluent are you?
Oh, I'm not fluent at all. So,
Disclaimer.
I'm fairly reasonable in reading and in reading the forms that are filled out by the clients, but not even house Spanish, not even conversational Spanish. I have no aptitude for foreign languages.
I feel that. So we all work in workers' compensation cases, and that is why we have so many Spanish speakers. And so how do you manage at the law firm to understand everything adequately if you don't speak the language?
Well, I get people who are bilingual, such as you, such as Angela, and then our support staff is fully bilingual also. So that gives me enough to translate. And then I meet with the clients. I listen to them talk. And partly is through translation, but a number of the clients who are native Spanish speakers also do have some English.
Yeah.
So it's a process at times. We do have clients that are purely Spanish-speaking clients. It's like no English at all. It's like, okay. And so those take a little bit more time. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you have to take their descriptive ability of what happened to them, which they can do a much better job of explaining in their native language than in a secondary language, where English is a second language for most of them. And then we have to take that rich detail that they can give us in the native language and put that into English, because all the proceedings that we wind up doing are in English, and all the papers we file with the courts are in English. Yeah. And when the client goes to court, we make sure that we've got a certified translator there so the client can follow along in real time as the proceeding goes along to see what's happening in their case.
You talked about a certified translator, so not anyone, Angela or I, could not translate in court.
Correct. We look for court certified translators.
Yeah, absolutely.
And typically they have a lot of experience, and they can they can do the real-time translation as with hardly a hiccup as it goes along.
Yeah.
So it works pretty well as we do the case. I just tried a case with a client who predominantly spoke only Spanish, and we took a translator and had him testify in Spanish on the stand and had to translate it. So got a very good result for that client in that case.
Excellent.
Central to that was allowing the client to testify in their native language. I say native language. For most of them, it's Spanish. For others, it's a different language. But it puts them more at ease. It removes this barrier to understanding questions, which I think we'll talk about in a later episode, because lawyers love to put together the most convoluted questions you can think of. And when you do that to a native speaker, it can be just incredibly misleading. And you can really cut back on that by giving them the comfort of the questions that are being asked in the native language.
Absolutely.
What do you think about that process?
I think it's interesting. I do.
I think it's always been a really good thing that even when you don't completely understand what clients are saying, you're always looking at people in their eyes. You're always having that conversation as if there's not even a translator. I know that. It was my first job translating. So that's been interesting. But not our entire job is translating. A lot of what we're going to get into is vocabulary, because we have to learn the basics before we build on to anything further. So let's go ahead and get into that.
For the first episode, I think that it's a good idea that we actually begin at the beginning, which is when you get to law school, one of the things that they teach you, of course, is to think like a lawyer. But as part of that, as they do in medical school and architecture and all sorts of other trades professions, they teach you a language that is used by lawyers.
We've talked about this. Yeah.
Yes.
All these barriers to entry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole idea at times seems to be that we can talk to each other in code that ordinary people don't really understand.
I still don't understand, and I work here, so yeah.
But they do. And it's amazing also at the beginning, since we do litigation, is that people do not have a good sense of how does a lawsuit start. They have seen TV, and in TV, you already see the judge, and you sometimes see a
trial
jury,
happening.
and you see the trial happening. But it's like, where does it all start? And so I tell people it all starts when you take your problem and you write it down on a piece of paper before you submit it to a court. And so what are you going to write down on that piece of paper? You're going to write down who you are because you're bringing the lawsuit. You're going to write down who the other party is that you want to get money from or get relief from, or you want the court to order them to do something or not do something. And then you're going to write down what court it's going to be in. You're going to write down what county that court is in if you are here in Texas. Then you're going to include an explanation of why this court has the authority to hear this case and why this court has the authority to make the person that you are suing appear in that court to answer the claims that you have against them. And then you're going to give a written explanation, factual explanation, short and to the point, of why you are aggrieved, why you're there, why you want the court to do something to the other person. And then finally, you're going to put down what relief you want. Do you want money? Do you want what we call an injunction? In other words, a court order that says, do this or don't do that. Or do you have, for example, a contract and you can't agree with the other party on what does this part of the contract mean? And you want the court to decide and declare what that contract means. So then in terms of the terminology, so when you go to court, you know who the judge is, and you know the court's called the court, and you know the jury's the jury. Well, if you're the party who is bringing the claim, then we have to attach a tag to you. So everybody in the case can know, oh, this person with this name has this tag, so I know who they are. But in the civil cases, the tag for the person bringing the claim is the plaintiff.
Okay.
And so if there's more than one, they're the plaintiffs. And on the other side, you've got the defendants. So the person you're suing is the defendant. Now, that sounds nice and easy. Now,
well, I have a quick question, Sandy. So you're talking about starting this lawsuit. Do you have to have an attorney when you begin this process?
You do not.
Okay.
You can go and initiate the process by yourself.
I'm sure it's confusing.
And we have a legal term for it, a Latin phrase, to be pro se.
Pro se.
Yeah,
okay.
Which means on behalf of yourself. So, and there's an old saying in the legal profession that a lawyer who has himself as a client or herself as a client is a fool. And for many disputes, you really need a lawyer to guide you through. However, Texas has been pushing very hard on creating courts where people can go appear on a pro se basis, not be bound by the technical rules of evidence, and present their grievance and get the cases decided. And those are the small claims courts, which are attached to the justice of the peace courts. And you have a justice of the peace. The cases, depending on the location, can move quickly or not quickly. But you go to a justice of the peace court in Texas, and they'll have a form that you can fill out that you want to bring a claim. And you can go without a lawyer.
Sorry, what is a claim?
A claim is the written explanation of why you think somebody owes you money or why you want the court to order the other party to do something.
Okay, gotcha.
So we call those a claim. Sometimes we call them a causes of action. So there's a whole spectrum of terms there.
But ultimately, you do advise that people have an attorney for any lawsuit. I wouldn't even know where to begin. Yeah.
There are thousands, there's tens of thousands of cases actually that are litigated in Texas in the small claims and justice of the peace courts that do not have any type of a lawyer participating.
Okay.
Many of those are eviction cases.
Oh.
And typically you see a lot of apartment complex managers and owners who they just have a person who goes down and represents the landlord in the eviction cases. And they do so many of them that they're thoroughly familiar with what needs to be done. So the procedures are not designed to be mystifying in any of the courts, but they have these technical requirements. It's like you have to lay out your document in a certain way. You have to meet these deadlines with regard to when things get filed. When you present evidence, it has to be evidence that's admissible under the rules of evidence, and it needs to be put into a form that, whether it's in writing or whether it's oral live testimony before the court, that one, makes sense, and two, fulfills the technical requirements of getting it in.
Okay, excellent.
So I went through an explanation of what the plaintiff is and what the defendant is. And so there are other tags that we use for other types of claims in the case. For example, if you have a car wreck and the driver of one car files a suit against the driver of the other car, says, "This was all your fault. You owe me money for the damage to my car." And then the defendant says, "Oh, no, au contraire. It's your fault. You owe me money for my car." So they file an answer in the court and they say, "I don't owe you any money. In fact, you owe me money." And then that part of their case where they say, "You owe me money," that's called a counterclaim, and they're the ones asserting it. So they're the plaintiff on the counterclaim. And so they're called a counter plaintiff. And then the original plaintiff is now defending against that claim in addition to asserting their own claims. So they're a defendant on the counterclaim, and the terminology we use is that they are now the counter defendant. Mm-hmm. So, but there's more. There's even more. So the cross claim is where you're the plaintiff, and now instead of being in an automobile wreck where you had one other car, say you had two other cars that were involved, and you think both of those drivers were at fault, and so they owe you money. So you sue them both. So they can appear as defendants against your claim. If they want to, they can sort of claim against you as a counter plaintiff. But sometimes they're of the same view that you are. You go in and you say, I'm driver A and drivers B and C are at fault. And driver B says, no, I'm not at fault, but drivers A and C were at fault. So we talked about where the defendant brings the claim against the plaintiff, and that being a counter plaintiff and a counter defendant. But now you also are suing somebody who, in the original layout of the lawsuit, was also a defendant with you. So you can assert a claim against them. And those are called cross claims because they're claims that go across between parties that start at the same level of the lawsuit as defendants. So now we've got plaintiffs, defendants, counter plaintiffs, counter defendants, and cross claimants. And that brings us to almost the last category, not quite the last category, which is where the defendants in the lawsuit say, well, we're not really at fault, and the person who's at fault isn't even here. And they need an invitation. And what are those?
And those are called interveners. That's when someone that wasn't an original party to the lawsuit invites themselves in, so to speak, and they become the intervener.
Okay, so that wraps up our first episode. Thank you so much for watching. We truly appreciate it. Please don't forget to follow us and connect with us on our social media platforms. We always want to hear from you.
And don't forget to subscribe to the Legal Trifecta, available anywhere you get your podcasts.